All right, Kevin. All right, Living Full Project people. Just in case. We're just trying something a little bit different here. It says Kevin is watching. I want to pull you in. Why is it not allowing me to pull you in? Now I see what you're talking about. That's funny. Now I'm going through the same thing that you were just going through. It just says you're watching. It doesn't actually have the invite. Maybe it'll allow you to invite here in a minute. So we'll see. Wait for it. Let me see. Is it working? Kevin, so far it just says that you are watching. So anybody else that's coming on to Kevin's beautiful Living Full project page, yes. I'm trying to figure out how to pull you in to this live so we can have two. So I am Kevin's guest today, and I guess I'm gonna basically entertain until it allows me to invite you in, man. I don't know. I don't know exactly why it's not pulling it in, but that's kind of how tech goes. So, Kevin, do you want to log off and then log back in? And I'll continue to entertain anybody else that is in here just in general. So, fun stuff. This is awesome. Anybody that's watching, Kevin, is that you that's still on, or is that somebody else? Funny how tech works, right? No matter what you do, you always end up into something like quirky. And the best part is, this is even on us. This is actually, I think, on Facebook side. So, while as much as we rely on tech, there's only so much that you can do until we continue to make shit better, right? So, Kevin, I'll see if when you log back in, I can just pull you in. Otherwise, I don't know. Just in case we're able to figure this out, Kevin invited me in today. We were going to talk about nothing. Let me see here. It's interesting. So basically what it says is I can't bring Kevin on camera. They can't join your broadcast at this time. So I'm not entirely sure why it says that. I actually clicked on you when it says viewers. I actually see people are popping into your page now. So anybody that's on this live, wait, hang on. There going to be a guest on the Living Full Project's page today. We were going to talk about everything from like mindset to here. I even have a bunch of notes down, holistic level. So like leveraging pain, environment, and people, physical health, mental health, alignment is the new hustle, all this stuff. It's trying to add him in right now. So hopefully, I don't know. It's saying it's adding, so we'll see. For anybody,
yes. I don't know what's happened there. I don't know what happened.
I was trying to entertain. So.
I saw that, yeah, badly. You should have done some dance.
Very badly.
Oh man, we got there. Though. That's the main thing.
Technology. If you need to download this video later and cut out, I don't know, the first 3 to 5 minutes, that'd be great.
Yeah, about 5 minutes. Yeah, sure. Okay, so look, I'll just quickly kick things off then. Guys, thanks for your patience if you've kind of been dropping in and out. And you'd probably seen on the page over the last few days, I've been talking, banging on about mindset and how your focus creates your reality and things like that. And I'm super passionate about this subject because I'm fascinated about how certain people can, really flourish in their lives and be against all odds as well, to be honest, and just create some amazing things out of the kind of some real turbulent times for them. And, you know, we all love the hero's journey, right? We all love the kind of the story of the underdog and how they've overcome adversity and this, that, and the other. But we can unpack this, you know. So this type of thing is available to everybody. And if you follow, I think it's Joseph Campbell. It's the hero's journey. They talk about the hero's journey, and there's a distinct way, a distinct cycle of what we do and how we go through things in order to achieve those things that we want. And it's about Matt. You talk about it beautifully, but I'll bring you in a second. But you talk about like alignment and how alignment is the new hustle, and it's about you know, whenever you're going after something that you want, it's about creating the person that you are. So that matches with that with that alignment, matches with that thing that you say you want. So what you want, whatever this is, this vision, this goal, whatever is here, and then you may need to do something that gets you to here. Now, the thing is, nobody says that journey is going to be all sweetness and light and candy. It's not. There's pain, there's other things, there's things that are going to test you. Old habits are going to come back, and old ways of being, old people, whatever, old scenarios are going to come back and to really push you to the brink where you think sometimes you can't even take any more. But it's at that point is where all the growth is where all the lessons are. And then you realize that you've actually, whether it's a positive or negative, you are in a space where you're then in alignment with that thing that you say that you want. You know, it's funny because when you look at life in itself, as human beings, we're in constant momentum. The only thing we need to do then is steer, you know, and life will sometimes turn you around the wrong way and we're facing the wrong way. And it depends on how long we're facing the wrong direction will determine how long we suffer, you know. And I think there's a great line by, God, what's his name? Who says it? It doesn't matter what he says. He says, pain is inherent, suffering is optional, you know. So there's a lot of value in that. It's which way we decide to sort of where we focus and how we do that. Now, focus isn't just about looking at your eyes. There's a whole other thing with it. And again, I think focus is more about alignment. So, and I've been working with Matt for what, 6-7 months now. I've been following him for about 2 years. He's been doing some great stuff. He's like a friend and a mentor now. And we've been talking about this sort of back and forth and in the stuff that I'm doing and what I'm looking to create, so it was kind of a no-brainer that Matt comes on and then decides to, and then with that we have this collaboration and talk about this subject that we're both passionate about. So with no further ado, Mr. Gosman, could you explain a bit more about yourself and your journey, etc., who you are?
Yeah. So inevitably, so I used to kind of have a very specific idea of how like my life was supposed to be, and you hear this from like everybody. So I try not to always do that boring route. It's like, oh, well, I wanted this, and this. Suddenly, I was just chasing all the time, and I felt like never really like satisfied, right? So. And then also I came to a crash and burn, so I got my ass whooped. To be perfectly honest with you, I think what really happens is, as someone very special to me recently taught me, it's when you get on your knees, right? Like when you end up on your knees, like you hit a really rough spot. And so, no matter how hard I was working, and doing exceptional work for companies, and I had a lot of like really great big deals, and I at one point was married. And all in an instant, like it crashed on me, like all of it. So lost all the deals, got the divorce, like, I mean, everything, and I woke up like, how the hell am I here? Like, that's a really weird place to be. I was 35, I'm now 38, you know? And at the time, I'm like, I had some goals of where I thought I should be, right? You know, we all do that, especially, you know, as a man in this world, like men, a lot of times, well-driven men, kind of have an idea, expectations of like where they should be. And once that kind of crashes on you, you have no choice but to actually like look inside yourself. I didn't always understand that at all. And I was like, you know, sure. And I was raised by cool parents, a very spiritual mother. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, I got it. I just didn't know she was feeding me for so many years ammunition that when I finally needed it, I was like, okay. And it started with like kind of picking up one book, which led to another, which led to like everything from law of attraction to mindfulness to A Course in Miracles. I'm like looking at my library, and I like to Abraham Hicks and Blink from. There's so many different books. So long story short, like I just started reading and started seeking out like a lot of really like spiritually good healers and business leaders because I just needed to figure it out. Like I needed to figure it all out. Like I figured that I got really annoyed when people say you must enjoy the journey. Like enjoy the journey. The journey is the process, embrace the journey. And I'm like, well, I don't understand that cliche. And then once I peeled back all the other, crap and like where I thought I should be, and actually just started doing stuff from a very organic place. I created hdfmagazine.com and HDF Magazine on Instagram. And I just started writing to the world my truth, about life and business and relationships and all these things, because I felt like there's so much glamorization and glorification of end success. And there's not enough featuring what goes on in real time in the journey. Like you said, the ups, the downs, the pain, the highs, the lows, all the stuff. And that ultimately we're all actually not really alone. We're all very similar in a lot of ways. Different journeys, but like very similar. The journey can be a very lonely place. Why is it lonely? If you think different from here's the blueprint, you must do this job, you must do this thing, you must have this house, you must have this spouse and children by certain ages, what happens when that doesn't work, right? And that's the thing I always kind of tell people who I still say are part of the matrix. Like, what happens if that doesn't work? Some of us, it didn't work. So, and we were lucky. Others, they just kind of like band-aiding it to make it work. And how can any one blueprint work for every person? I don't see how it could. So, so I wanted to feature the journey and bring more people closer together on it, and especially creators, entrepreneurs, passionate people around the world who, as they're growing in something, they can feel more normal in being abnormal, in being different. I wanted that for them. And so I created this platform, started talking to the world responded back, and all of a sudden I ended up with massive amounts of followers. It led to a media company with my business partner, Case from Pursuit, which led to a bigger media company, to a podcast, which got over 1.2 million downloads now, which led to an even bigger media company with like sponsorships and advertising. Like people from around the world, we reach about 10 million a month through email and podcasts and social and our websites, everything. So we wanted to redefine media and make it more purpose-driven content and connect to global audiences who are passionate about doing something other than what they're told to normally do. I think that's like the short end of that. Sorry, cool. That was a little lengthy, but no, but that's cool. And it's funny because you find what I found. I'm not sure, but it's two things. It's not sure because I'm kind of moving into that space and occupying that space a bit. But there's a distinct difference. There's so many guys. Hey, Polly, he's one of them. That they are, you can really see the difference in the kind of the old school and the new school, so to speak. And because I have an investments background as well, you see it even more so. There's that kind of the corporate. You should have X, Y, and Z. It's the success and they're not really sharing the success is measured by a monetary sense. That's it, nothing else. Right.
And then you have this kind of this new wave or this new age of entrepreneur that's actually doing things for the benefit of others. They're collaborating in different worlds, using different people from all over the globe, and they are seeing things outside of themselves. They're doing things to benefit the world that they live in somehow. Do you know what I mean? So that's whether or not they're helping someone that can do that on a bigger scale, or helping other coaches or other bits and pieces on things like that. But it's about making a presence and doing it consciously, more to the point. And it's not kind of, there was a time when it's kind of airy fairy, but now it's not so much. It's kind of it's more commonplace. I think people kind of have switched on to the fact that actually there needs to be more than this. I mean, I'm slightly older than you, and I've come from an era as going to school. And then you're like, okay, so what are you going to do? You need to have a trade. You need either to be an IT or manual worker. So you're all set up to plug straight into a system, the matrix, as you said, and then you're just churning away and you're doing this thing, you're doing this job, and I think, hang on a minute, there's got to be more to life than this. There's a lot of people around my age or just under I thought there's got to be more to life than this. But now the millennials are getting on it, and even from around the 30 mark, 28 mark, if they're still in that kind of, they're waking up to that too. It's happening at a younger rate, and I think more so than anything else. And everybody that I interact with, their key value is freedom. More so than anything, freedom. I want to create the life I want to create. Thanks. If I want to go and travel for 3 weeks, then I can go and travel, and I can still do the work and still get things done. And it's about creating a lifestyle that you want to create. And this is not just about money, or it's definitely not about money. Money is almost like a byproduct of what you produce. And equally, what I love about it so much is that you can just put out who you really are. People are a lot more brave now. Do you know what I mean? You don't really care so much about the people that think this guy's an absolute lunatic. I don't know what he's talking about. Or that's cool. That's cool, because the people that do, they're the ones that you serve. And it's as simple as that,
Yeah. No, it's definitely an interesting time. And I'm at an interesting age because they technically define millennial as like 1980, and I was born in 79, right? I'm like we're like the Zennials or whatever they're calling us. We're like that in between the X. We're like why we created it, and we're now like this kind of led the revolution, if you will. Yeah. And then like the younger wake up faster. I think it's very why it's no longer frou-frou and like, getting in touch with yourself and getting in alignment and all this other stuff. Because first of all, if you look at, there was a stat and a really cool video out there about 80% of successful people are meditating. We used to think of meditation as like, type of stuff, whatever. Sit in a room with like a bunch of people and just kind of oming out, right? But it's actually a form of getting clarity for yourself. What would actually happen if at the beginning of each day, you not only were grateful, but and did some gratitude, but then took 10 minutes just to ask yourself like, hey, where am I at? What do I want? See, most people, that's the funny thing is that the millennial generation just asked themselves what they wanted faster. The older generations, from what I can tell, because I've played in both, obviously, is no, you're told this is what you want. Those are two very different playing fields. Now, the reason the millennials questioned that in the first place was very simple. You're never home. You're sick. You're tired. You guys created the real estate crash, the bubble. You created healthcare crisis, at least in our country. You created, you created all of these like issues. People, they're watching their parents go through heart attacks, stress, money issue, like all these things. And so the millennials grew up watching that. And so they kind of grew up with that like pain in their chest in a way, like, wait a minute, you're telling me I should do this. You don't really look happy. See, their parents kind of hit it. Their parents were part of it a little bit different because their parents were part of more of like the Industrial Revolution, right? So where like, they were a lot more, it was just kind of like, no, you're just pulling your weight. You're just really just the hustle because we're still figuring it all out. And then the boomers were kind of the original entitlement generation, like your world is your oyster, do something. And so they consumed and had all the things that they thought were going to fulfill because now it was sort of like, hey, like we can do whatever we want, but here's the blueprint to it, right? And so, so it's interesting. So the millennials, I think, just like they see it and they go, I don't know, something's not working. And then I have so many boomer friends that I respect, especially in their 40s and 50s, that are they not only woke up, but they're like a movement. Like they almost feel responsible, like for mentoring people in and around the world for like, oh shit, I get it. And I'm still young and I have to really like be about what I really want to do and like what really makes sense for me and where I really want to go and not be afraid that, being in your 40s or 50s or even in some cases, in your 60s, like that it's still plenty of time. And so you're seeing just, we live in a time, we live in the information age. So everybody's kind of like, hey, well, what do I really want to do? And when you're seeing enough people do what they love to do and earning a living from it, suddenly it sparks enough questions with a lot of other people. Like, what does that really mean? Like, I don't understand. How do you do that? And then once you start putting the pieces together, you start to figure it out, and then the flip side of that was too, is that, earlier when you brought up alignment is the new hustle. It's interesting. So we all have like a natural talent, Sometimes we do it for other people and we're really good at it and it's never enough. Sometimes we do it for ourselves. When you stop like chasing a whole bunch of other things and just do what you really do really well for you and the people, like you said, the people you serve in present time, what begins to happen is like all the other things just come. That's a very hard concept for a lot of people because that requires faith in a bigger picture. Like, what do you mean it'll come? How will it come? I mean, it's like, it just does.
It just does, yeah.
That's a hard concept for a lot of people. You can just like blindly be like, it'll figure itself out. Like, while you're doing your thing, while you're actually working on something that you really like, that really resonates with you. And we've proven it. A bunch of us have all proven it by building our own platforms and doing our own things. I had a bunch of people in the beginning who were like, what's this blog thing you're doing? I came from the startup world. I came from big brands and trying to do their marketing and building out their tech platforms. And they didn't want to do certain things that I wanted to do, which is fine. Once I did what I want to do, I created distribution. They're like, I don't understand, what's this blog thing you're doing? I'm like, oh, well, I'm creating critical mass distribution for myself. They're like, sure, whatever. That, we just do our typical marketing and then we get a return. I'm like, cool. That's still not you have to curate an audience. And they didn't want to even see that. And so they didn't understand like the purpose of like when you actually have like an audience or your tribe, and it can be anywhere from 1,000 people to 1,000,000 people and plus, whatever. Now you have an audience, you have a distribution platform to deliver your message, deliver your talents, deliver your skill sets. And you're seeing this happen in like music, fashion, tech, health and wellness, fitness, mindfulness, entrepreneurship. Everybody's doing it. A lot of people are doing it. I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people are really doing it, right? So I created distribution, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, wait a minute. Like they kind of woke up. They're like, so we got this company over here. Can you can you advertise us, or can you do this? Can you do that? Suddenly they started waking up to like possibilities. By then it was too late because I didn't want to do anything with them. No, it's a little bit. So it's a little bit of a tangent, but I guess I just kind of wanted to say that like, if you do what you do really well, and for the people you serve, like you said, that's it. That's your tribe. And that's how you end up growing your thing, the beautiful part about that is that like, okay, so you're an investor, like you're an experienced seasoned investor. I'm not. Like I maybe in cryptocurrency and I'm not even seasoned in that yet, but you're an experienced seasoned investor. I do not know investing, but I am willing to learn from you about investing. And there's probably about 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 other people out there that are willing to learn about investing from you because you've been doing it for so long. And so imagine when you're like online, you're like, yeah, listen, not only do I love what I do, but I also want to help other people understand about investing. I want to help other people, make smarter decisions and all this stuff and have a better relationship with money, like all these things. That resonates with people because they're like, wow, like he wants to help, or, he can teach me. Normally I'd have to go to school for that. But this guy right here who's doing it in real time is teaching me. So that's why it is possible now in the internet age, because before then you'd have to like go out into the market of that place and like advertise on billboards and magazines in that own city. Now it's like you, through the internet, you can connect with people globally. Obviously you're in London and I'm in, West Coast United States, right? Doing business. So yeah.
So going back to sort of you've managed to make a like you say, you build an amazing platform in quite a short space of time, albeit through there's some variants around there, different types of things like the podcast, your partnership Chase, and obviously HDFN magazine. But what, in hindsight, then looking back and getting back onto the topic of specifically around mindset and focus. What was it that you did that you can kind of pull out now that would be of value to sort of other people that kind of, because you kind of, I know you're still doing stuff obviously, but there's some specific things that have, especially around your mindset, that has got you to where you've got, obviously. Could you talk on that a minute?
Yeah. I quieted the mind. That was really key.
Sure.
I was thinking, I was anxious all the time. I was thinking about the future all the time. Sometimes I was stuck in the past, so that was depressing, right? So there's that saying like, if you think about the past, you're depressed, or you're depressed if you're thinking about the past, you're anxious if you're thinking about the future.
That's correct.
Otherwise,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
just being in the present, right?
Mm.
So I had to quiet the mind. I then started seeking out a lot of individuals who were smarter than me, and in all areas of my life, coaches, mentors, advisors, business people. And what was interesting is that actually really helped me. That really helped me get focused, because suddenly I have appointments with all the right people, right? So I'm spending my time asking, so I'm actually keeping busy. A lot of times, if we're not busy and we're sitting at home, we're thinking about you could be thinking about your problems. You could be thinking about like what you have or don't have, what's missing. And then, so the mind will run away from you. So I kept busy, but I kept busy with right activities by, having appointments with really great people, really smart people who help me out spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, all these things.
Sure.
So I had to humble myself and actually get vulnerable and ask for help, which is funny that it shouldn't be that hard. I had no problem with really asking for help. I just didn't realize I wasn't doing it. So, and then also, who do you go ask, right?
Yeah.
So I had to like kind of almost ask for it, like university. I'm like, hey, please send me people that that could help me in the direction that, I want to go. So that leads to the third point is I started looking in. I'm like, well, what do I really want? And what do I want to know? What would I want as a vision for myself, for my life? And once you know those things, then the world kind of has this funny way of like revealing people to you. Like they come in out of nowhere. And at first you're like, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, you're like, are you messing with me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, it's almost like angelic, right? They're like, did you ask for this? You're like, maybe, and in typical American fashion, we're very, I mean, I'm a pretty open guy, very friendly, but like, Americans are very like, what do you want? You know what I mean? Like, what do you do? And people just were willing to help. So that was that. And then I also, to get focused, I was reading Abraham Hicks, Money and the Law of Attraction. And she said something really interesting in that book, which was when you have a negative thought, it's you have 17 seconds to cut it off. 17 seconds before it expands.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And what does that mean? So your first 17 seconds, your next 17 seconds, so one thing leads to another, and before long, what have you done for like 5 minutes? Probably panicked and worried about like all these situations, all these things that haven't even happened yet. You just literally made them all up in your mind, which is a trip when you think about it. Like it doesn't even exist yet, right? Which, if you're not careful, will lead to the choices you make and the way you interact with people, and the way you talk to other people, or the way your body language is. Yeah. So Abraham Hicks said something really profound, and it really changed me. It was very simple. When you have a negative thought, and you probably go over a lot of this stuff. I know you do in your quest. So when you have like a negative thought, the goal is to say, oh, okay, cool. I totally get it. That's something I don't want. So if you're going to actually stop it right there and be like, I get it. Contrast is what she calls it. I get it. I don't want that thing. Yeah. So the next viable question, what do you want?
Yeah.
And so it's like if somebody's worrying about like relationship, like I don't want they're treating me like this, or what if they treat me like that, or whatever it might be. Okay, cool. Viable question for you. How do you want to be treated? Well, I want to be treated with respect, and I want to feel this, and I want to feel freedom to express myself in front of that person, and I want a loving relationship. I want support, like all these different things, which is going to lead to two very things for your focus. Number one, notice how your body language changes when you start thinking that way. Suddenly, you're actually emanating that more, and your focus and your energy is there more. And the second thing is it's actually getting you clear, and focus on the things that not just getting you clear, like how you have to behave.
Sure.
Right? It moves you in the direction of like, oh, I get it. Like nobody can actually make that for me. Like I have to do it for myself.
Yeah.
So A, I know what I want, and B, I have to do it for myself. So your focus changes, and then all of a sudden you start attracting it. Sometimes people took law of attraction as like, oh, I want this, and then boom, it comes in your life. No, it's more of like you're changing your mindset to know what you want, get your clarity, and then behave like it. And then there was one fourth really, really main thing that helped me like beyond belief. And again, I believe you go over a lot of this stuff in your programs. I had a very good spiritual advisor and a mentor say something very profound to me. And this was in regards to relationships, but it's in regards to anything in your life. We were talking this about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And he said, all right, you've been through divorce. You know, have you discovered who you are yet as a man? And I said, you know, I'm getting there, but yeah, like I'm becoming so clear. And it'd been about a year and a half. And he said, great. So you know who you are? I said, yeah. And he goes, cool. He's like, do you know the kind of woman that you want in your life? I said, absolutely. And he goes, yeah, you're clear about that? And I said, absolutely, 100%. He goes, great. Final question. I said, all right. He goes, are you behaving like the kind of man that when that woman sees you, will know you?
Yeah.
And know it's you. And I was like, ooh. At the time, I was like, maybe like 88, 92%, you know. But it hit me so hard because it was so profound and simple that like it's our behaviors.
Yeah.
It's just our behaviors and our minds that are like what's kind of guiding us towards a thing, you know, we want or don't want. And like when somebody tells you like, hey, do you realize that everything around you is a direct result of your own choices? That's scary because what's in your bank account, who you're dating or married to, you know, what life you're leading, what job you do, what exercise, your body, all that. Those are your choices. Your choices. That hits people hard a lot of times because they're like, oh shit. Oh, you know.
Yeah, cool.
Those things help me get focused. It's clarity, goals, gratitude, and goals like more so like what I envision for my life, not like I must have $1 million by this age or you know, or 10 million, whatever, you know, whatever it is, right? So
no, that's I'm glad you touched on it, and you touched on some of the other things as well. Like you said, you want to see, because a couple of things came out for me there. Is like, first of all, your environment. Your environment is as in the people that you surround yourself with, how you set yourself up. And also, what the second thing was is that you specifically by seeking out these people, you'll go into people that have that knowledge and have that kind of that can make you see in that direction that you want to go, and also the understanding then that it's not just mental, it's physical. You know what I mean? And it's definitely environmental, and it's, you know, down to even things down to you know, the better exercise you got, the type of quality food you put in your body. And that helps with the energy, that helps with your you know, cognitive brain function on that kind of level. And also the focus is more than just like I said at the beginning, it's a holistic thing. You're radiating that, you're giving off that energy. So like you say, you want that certain person, then are you at that frequency? Are you at that level that matches that person so they just don't walk by them and they don't just walk past you? You just know when you're on a different kind of vibe, because, you know, people will say that you vibe attracts your tribe. You will attract exactly what's likened to you. It's always the way, you know, it's always the way. So it's, and if that's not the case, that's cool. Because then you've got an area of focus then to work towards, you know, if you know that's what you work. And people are like, especially the law of attraction movement, people think that that's it. You just put it out there and it will come. But no. Right. There's always work. There's always work and challenges and overcoming challenges and things like that. So it's not as straightforward. Sometimes it will feel like hard work and other times it won't. But it's definitely not all sweetness and light. But it's definitely worth it though. The journey is always worth it, I feel. You know? Yeah,
well, you're always stacking small shifts. Again, that's stuff that you do with a lot of your programs. Like it's about these tiny little shifts mentally. The hard part is usually getting started for a lot of people. And then it's like, if you dedicated like 1 week, just 1 week to like switching one thing that you think about, and then another week and another week, you end up like 2, 3, 4 months down the road, like to the point where you now start noticing you're changing daily. Like people ask me like, hey, like what'd you do yesterday? I'm like, I don't know. Like the day was like so different. There's so much going on the whole time. And so those small shifts are massive. And that's what I started realizing about what makes the journey, so much fun. And then you brought up about, like we ask for things. We all want stuff, right? And that's okay. Like I now get the balance. You do want things because it's an abundant, like, like God didn't just, or universe, or however, whatever your spiritual background is, or not spiritual, you weren't just put onto like earth and it's like, you people must suffer, and then you people over here, you guys can all succeed. All of you suffer, you small groups.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. It's just that, like, and have you ever noticed that, like, I mean this in the nicest way, the idiot who's like the millionaire, like, who just like, they're so in love with themselves, or so like in their own thing, that it's just because they're just not wired to like worry about lack or failure or this or that. Like they literally just love who they are, even if they're like a complete idiot. It doesn't matter. It's just because they're in it. That just goes to show you. See, there's not like one category type for what abundance should look like. So the thing about that you mentioned about attracting it is that you have to be careful what you want. Are you ready for it, or ready for the responsibility? And that's the biggest thing. That's why the mindset is so important to shape it, because for a long while after my divorce, I thought like, is there, what type of woman do I want? And I didn't realize I had to work for that. That was a very key thing. I now have that in my life, and we were just talking about this the other day. But like I had to work for it like a lot, because I realized that, first of all, what you want, are you behaving like it? And number two, if, to your point, it comes into your world and you don't know how to treat it or respect it, it will go right by you.
Yeah.
It will. It'll like literally like, or it'll be like, no, you're not my type, or no, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not this. And not to the capacity of the level of what I wanted from a woman, or what I wanted for a relationship, right? Like, it wasn't until I pulled back, I stopped resisting. Normally when people chase things, you're causing resistance. That's a big thing. Like a lot of people don't realize, like, I want more, so you don't have enough. It's okay to want more, but not chase it. There's a difference, like, meaning do your thing and let it come, the way it needs to come, because you're being smart with your time, your energy, your value, all this stuff, and then it'll grow from there. So, so I pulled back resistance and I basically kept going to work. And then every time I was tested on something, especially in like, it could be with money, it could be relation. In this case, we're just talking about relationships. I took the test and said, no, this is how I'm going to handle it, to show respect for the future self, for the thing that I wanted. And then the thing that you want comes into your life and it actually respects you for exactly what you are. And you're like, interesting. You're like, like you behave like this, this, and this. Like, I was told that by someone who was like, that is it. And she's like, I get you. And it's just interesting. Like you basically put yourself into receiving mode when you really work on your mindset, and your behavior.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think I spoke on this, I did a couple of videos back, maybe Monday, maybe the weekend, but there's specifically towards mindset, there's, you have to be really mindful. And I think this is why people can not put the work in as much as they want to, because they are, because it takes a lot of focus. It does take a lot of focus. It takes a lot of energy. Yeah. And sometimes I just want to sort of, have the day, let the day go by, sit on the sofa, do whatever, and just do nothing. However, there's also these times where you think that you're doing the right thing, you're going for what you want. However, there could be some little remnants of lack, little remnants of fear, anything fear-based that is slightly underpinning what it is that you want. That thing there needs to be weeded out, and you have to mine for them sometimes. It's not always on the surface. It could be at a lower level. So, and it will show itself. And this is when you pay attention to your, as Esther Hicks would say, your emotional guidance system. You know, if something feels a little off, you feel it in your stomach, you know, you feel it. And this is, you know, the body has a system. It depends on what kind of school of thought you follow. It's the, you know, there's the body, the gut, the heart, and the mind, you know, and you use all your instruments to know where to realize if you're in alignment and what's going on for you. It always leaves clues, you know. The mind is the last thing in that sense that, you know, you just, if your gut's telling you something, then ask the mind, what's going on? What's going on? And then you can readjust that. If there is any kind of negativity, any fear or anything else, okay, well, obviously I don't want the fear. I do want to create this just for the sake of creating it because I know I can. And this is where you use the heart, because the heart is the thing that will bring things to you. It's got the magnetic pull, the magnetic energy that draws the things to you. So it's without going kind of off on a tangent too much or going too deep for this live, but it's all about the focus. Again, another facet to focus then is what I'm trying to say is awareness in itself, because it's like there's two sides to it, but either way, fear-based or negative or positive, it's still the same thing. It's still the same journey, and it's reacting to which one it is as soon as possible and taking the next obvious action in favor of your goal or end result or vision or whatever you want to call it, which ultimately gets you on that path. So it's either turns up in form of a lesson, an action step, or something else, or a readjustment or whatever. So, you know, they're never. Sometimes we can take those setbacks way, way, way too personal, and they can set us back longer than they need to. You know, rather than just acknowledging it and owning that and thinking, Christ, okay, where's my lesson? What is it I can grow from this? And just using that and leveraging those pain points into something else, you know. And like you said, I mean, I'm sure you said, getting to this stage now where you're actually dating someone that you actually consciously found or consciously sort of sought out. There's a lot of pain prior to that, right?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I said,
or a lot of lessons, I should say. Sorry,
Yeah, no. Suddenly you connect the dots. Suddenly I was like, oh my God, I get it. Like you realize everything is worth the work. And I like what you said about self-awareness, because I'm part of that kind of new school where I wanted to also move away from that whole like frou. I don't mean to like disrespect it. It's just that, like, the people are like, you can do it and be aware and, you know, like mind over matter. It was so like, I would rather it be real, like, and be like, hey, here's how I'm feeling and here's how I'm working through it. So to your point about self-awareness, it's cool when you can actually take a step back and say something like, I'm going to work through this feeling. And actually, like, I would talk to that person, that business deal or that business thing, and be like, hey, trying to get a better understanding of like where we really at, like what do you really want, or like why didn't we line up or whatever. Like, and by the way, the look on people's faces is like, oh, you know, because most people just don't want to deal with stuff. No. But when you're self-aware, you actually want to tackle it. Like, you actually genuinely want to tackle it. And so it's interesting because that even also comes over in your relationships. Like, hey, I'm just trying to understand better. Did I miscommunicate this? Or what is that? I was saying this and this is what I was really feeling, but maybe that didn't come off that way. I would love to get your thoughts. And boom, like, you find alignment so quickly from it because people are like, oh, I assume this or I assume that. And then the other side of this self-awareness, which is really interesting that when you brought it up, is it's just that ability to just take a step back and like, whoa, like internally, like, what was that about? Like, whether you like snapped at somebody or you wanted to like judge somebody, or maybe you were worrying about something from relationships, money, you know, body, whatever it might be. But like, whoa, like, what's that about? You know, like actually having an internal dialogue. And it's funny because your ego is going to talk back. It's going to be like, well, you know, and I learned this from a very like a mind business coach guy that's like world renowned, very awesome, genuine dude. And he was like, make friends with your ego. And the whole point of that was, if you ask your ego questions, what it's going to do is it's going to respond back. And the reason it responds back is because it's actually trying to protect you. it's a little harmful in the process, but it's trying to protect you. And what he was saying is that ego is fear driven. It's trying to use data and inputs from past experiences, the news, media, your friends, anything and everything. It's using data. So it's trying to protect you based on false data or just data that happened in real time for whatever moment, for whatever person, including you. Whereas your intuition and your gut is a feeling. How many people trust their feelings to go with their feelings? Why is that hard? There's no data. Well, I think I'm just going to do this. Why? It just feels right. How do you know it's going to work out? Like, I don't. You know? So there's no data. And so the ego automatically is just trying to protect you. So once you have like that, like, oh, okay, like you're kind of like the bad, you know, the bad part of it, but like you mean well, so negotiate with it. And I was like, I asked him, like, what do you mean negotiate? He's like, negotiate with your ego and say, hey, what's it about? Why do you feel this way? And your ego will respond and say, well, I'm worried about this, and this. And you go, oh, okay, cool. Can I tell you like what I want? Like what I want is a result or a vision? And your ego, like it sounds funny, but like your internal dialogue is kind of I'd love to hear this. And then you like, what does it do? Gets you clear. Because now you're actually like thinking about what you want. And then you're also taking a step back, like you said, you're taking a step back and then reiterating the vision of the thing. What starts to happen is the ego goes like this and just eases up. And it's like, oh, well, okay. So it eases up on you. Instead of like hammering you. Now it's kind of like, okay, that could work. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like you're rationalizing with your ego. And he said the reason why you have to negotiate is because you can't get rid of your ego. It's always going to be there. Just make friends with it. Make friends with it. And when you make friends with it, it starts to kind of like, it just eases up. And it's like, all right, let's see where this goes. And it'll keep trying. It'll keep trying to like battle you, the journey. Yeah. But then you keep stepping back. Nope, so far we did this. And notice that this happened. And then this happened. So there's definitely signals that we're on the right place. So you're always like dealing with your inner self, your ego.
Yeah, right? Yeah. No, that's cool. And I love that. You said it sounds funny, but let's face it, we're always talking to ourselves, whether we're kind of aware of it or not. And this is another trick as well, especially when you're feeling that angst or whatever, or even if you're dealing with someone that's quite difficult, you can and the ego's flaring up for whatever reason, it assumes there's a threat, you're going to look stupid or you feel bad or whatever it is, whatever the thing is. But when that ego flares up, I always tell clients to kind of separate themselves, come out of it. There's a reason why we can give advice better than we can take our own. And the reason being is because it's the emotional detachment from it. So if you can disassociate yourself and you imagine yourself looking down on yourself or the scenario or whatever, and then give yourself advice from that space, oh, that's a lovely thing. It's like you're watching the telly, like, oh my God, don't go through that door, or whatever it is, or you should respond that way, or you should try this. And it's just giving yourself that. Again, it's awareness, and it's what we're talking about is room. It's giving yourself that kind of a little bit of space before And I think one of the tricks is because these things, ego kicks in fast, and it's a trigger. Something will trigger us, and you want to do stop. That's at that point. That is not the time to respond or act or do anything else. It's that because if you can use that trigger then as that flare up as an opportunity to pause and then assess what's going on, it's like an alarm. You could use it in a positive sense rather than going into attack. Because I don't know about you, whenever I respond from ego, I get it horribly wrong. Horribly wrong. And now most of the time you end up apologizing or just you've got egg on your face or whatever. Or you're full of regret. So it's not easy, but it's that observation, isn't it? And it's constant monitoring of yourself. But I suppose that's another facet to focus as well.
Yeah, all this stuff is actually very formulaic, as you know. Like you've got the Quest programs and other things that you do. It's all formulaic. The measurement is the output from changing here, which changes what comes out of here, which changes our actions, which changes the end result, right? And so the the results are more of like the tangible in the near distant future from making those shifts. But it is very formulaic. I think sometimes what trips a lot of people up is the whole I need to see it to believe it, and the real saying is you need to believe it to be able to see it.
That's right.
And it's very true, because like you have to change the way you behave, and nobody can do that. Like it's so weird when people say like, oh, I always get this, or I always get that. Like, okay. You're like, well, no, but like, it's true. You're like, it is. And it's like, they're like, I can't tell if you're mocking me. I'm like, I'm not mocking you.
It's so true, yeah.
If you use those words, like, that's all you're going to keep seeing. And they're like, but that's it. That is all that ends up. I'm like, but see, that you're speaking a truth. And they're like, you want me to speak the opposite? I'm like, I want you to speak what you want. And they're like, well, but it's not here. And I'm like, yet. I was like, but that's just because it's where you're focusing your mindset and your energy on. And that trips people up, because for some reason it's so easy for people to just like dwell on the negative. Try dwelling on the positive and see what happens. You know what I mean? Like it's a very interesting, fascinating thing, and I think it's just, so to your point earlier, detaching yourself from like a negative or a positive, it's just not having some crazy reactive emotion, and just being present within and like, oh, this is how I'm feeling. Let me work through the feeling. What happens with a lot of people is they run from a feeling instead of dealing with it. And the funny thing is that running from it actually makes it huge. Like massive. Running towards it and right through it makes it so small. Like, all right, we're dealing with this right now. You know what I mean? Well, in its right way. And then all of a sudden you deal with it and you're like, look at each other, or you look at the person or your own thing. You're like, well, that wasn't so bad at all.
No.
It's just up here.
Yeah. The thing is, and another misconception is that you don't want to feel those. You don't want essentially that feeling, that anxiety, or whatever the angst and whatever that you feel in your feel. You don't want that. However, running away from it may dissipate it, but you're still going to have the same problem. Or if anything, it's going to come back twice as strong for you. But you still need to be able to take the right action while still feeling those feelings, because those feelings are always sometimes going to be negative. It doesn't make no difference.
Right.
But the action is still true in order to either whatever the end result is to achieve something, or to squash something, or to find a resolution, whatever it is. It's going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes you're going to be uncomfortable, and in fact, the more comfortable you are with being uncomfortable means that you're more likely to succeed in doing those types of things time and time again. So what was that saying? Speak anyway, even if your voice shakes. It's the same thing, or feel the fear and do it anyway. Any of those fantastic memes that are out there, they're great, and they're so commonplace because they actually have they resonate with so many people. They have a reason why there's so many people watch those things or like those types of things,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating to just watch how your behavior like changes like everything, just like in real time, like where you're like, I basically tell everybody, I'm like, it's just moving energy, and they're like, okay, this should be good. I'm like, no. I was like, have you ever talked to somebody and you're like, internally you're like, I don't really like you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even necessarily that person. It's just whatever the issues are that they have, or whatever, or maybe you don't trust them or whatever. And that's fine too. Like, A, don't judge them, but B, have enough boundary and space to be like, cool, I'm going to finish this interaction and move. And then I'm not going to take any more time to think about it. So therefore, you don't take any of that with you. You leave that be. You leave that person accountable for who they are and what they are and all of that stuff that comes with it. And then you move. And the same even happens for even like people that you can outgrow, right? Like that happens too. You outgrow people. Like sometimes with really good people, you're like, oh shit. Like, you're not feeling like you're not elevating. We're all moving. You're not moving. So, that's hard, right? Because basically that's why they say everybody won't make it. And sometimes they'll catch back up. So what do you do when it's good people? And you're just like, I got to keep moving. I know a few friends who just recently went through this, even in their own relationships. Like they had to keep moving. The person didn't want to like elevate with them. That's hard because they know where they're heading. They know where they're going, and they have to live in their truth and their purpose. And they're not saying like, don't come with me. They're like, please come with me. But that person wanted to stay exactly where they were. In fact, they were actually going the opposite direction. That happens.
Sure.
So you just,
Sure.
you have to be able to move energy and move yourself and stay to your core truth, which you couldn't do unless you're up in here.
Yeah. That's very true as well. And I think sometimes we feel like, especially when it comes to, well, I was going to say relationships, but any type of relationship, business or whatever, when we're interacting with other people,
yeah,
if you are able to create or not only create in your mind the thing that you're after, your vision. And I say vision because goals are kind of, for me, they are somewhat limited, whereas a vision is something that a bit grander and is more all-encompassing. So let's say you've got a vision in mind of where you want yourself to be or how you see your life, and other people, and you can communicate that clearly. It becomes quite apparent then that other people can either that doesn't work, that's not for me, or that may be for me. But equally, that person may have a vision for their life, and you should be a synergy is about those two people supporting each other, or however many people supporting that without compromising your vision. You can't compromise your vision, because that's for the sake of something else. Because the minute you do that, you get lost. You get lost, and it doesn't inevitably something will fall over at some point. So it's about staying true to your vision and helping someone else along their vision as well. And if you're talking specifically about couples or whatever, then normally, if you can come together in a synergistic way, then there's a way to work out how both visions create an even bigger one from a space that you wouldn't even have thought of. You create something even bigger, or it becomes painfully obvious that you need to separate, and that can be a romantic friendship, business, whatever it is. If you're faced in the wrong way, it's cool, but you can do it from a space of like love. If you have that awareness on consciousness, you can do it from a space of love, and not rather than pointing the finger. It's your fault that this is that. So that's not cool. But there is
the finger pointing.
Great in love. Yeah.
It's the finger pointing, right? It's always like, well, it was that person, it was this, it was that. It was, That was the other thing that got me focused. I stopped finger pointing about 3 years ago. And that took me a little bit of time, because it doesn't matter even if it clearly is their fault. Absolutely. Yes, it's their fault. It was my choice to be a part of it. It was my choice to accept it. It was my choice to receive it. It was my choice, anything versus.
Still your responsibility. Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Yeah,
so the finger pointing is a big one. That was a big one. I got rid of that. And it saved me. So,
of course. Yeah. So what else is we've kind of we've touched on as well. And I know you're a big fan of the 30-day thing as well. The reason why, I'll give my take on it, and then maybe you can elaborate on it as well. But the reason I like about a 30-day thing and like the 30-day challenge challenges that we do is that it gives you one area specifically that you want to focus on, that you want to work towards. And because what happens is we're changing your thoughts, your habits, your behaviors, your environments in order to focus on that one thing that you say that you want, and then take that journey towards that thing. And it's interesting because, like you said, it's very formulaic. And once you have it for one, you can apply this in other areas of your life too. The problem that most of us have is that we spread ourselves too thin. So, okay, I need to focus on my relationship. I need to focus on this and focus on my health. Focus on, I need some more money. And I need to do something else around, there's too many. There's too many over a long period of time. If you had a year or something like that, then you could do pockets at a time. But within 30 days, you can add a lot of, you can have exponential changes. Like you said, there's tiny little steps all of a sudden build you up. There's tiny little, I remember one of our first conversations, I think it was one of your first lives that I watched. And I've heard it before, that slight 1 degree change puts you in a completely different direction over time, I know you do. So you've had some great results with your, the 30-day challenges, and which is why you encouraged me to do those as well. And I mean, what's your take on that?
Oh, they're incredible. So 30 days is tangible for a lot of people and doable. That's the thing, is that when we think about, how will I ever get here? That's overwhelming. That's an overwhelming feeling, because you're I have so far to go, or that's difficult. Changing a habit or changing a direction is difficult when you think in terms of so far out. what I noticed and what I learned from a few things that I had done and from a few coaches and mentors and advisors and all this stuff is that when you can dedicate a small chunk of time to and focus for like a couple of very specific things or one specific thing, it's funny because you come out of it on the other end. You see this, by the way, with all the time, like health and fitness and the body, the diets. You see this with like with money. You see this like, you know, wherever you put like a focus, a very specific focus, you basically get rid of all the other noise and worrying about all the other details. And then you just focus on just a couple of things that make drastic changes and in a small period of time. So now suddenly you have tangible results, like for yourself, whether it's, you know, your attitude towards things coming into your life, new opportunities, more money, a better relationship. It's crazy. It's crazy only because that's not how things are normally taught to us. No. You know, but it's actually not a crazy thing at all. See how like even my language is like, oh, it's crazy to think about. Like, no, actually it's not. So a 30-day block, you know, challenge, or even, you know, the next step usually is like 12-week, right? Like, okay, you've started, and now how do you keep momentum? That's a whole other, you know, that's a whole other ballgame that happens to a lot of people. Sure. But 30 days is easy for people to comprehend. Like, you know what? If nothing else works, fine. At least I tried for 30 days. But you already know the result. You already, like, that's the greatest thing is to have people who they want to do like something that's like a 30-day challenge, whether it's like a health and fitness boot camp, a mental mindfulness boot camp, marketing boot camp, whatever it might be. Like they almost kind of sometimes want to come in trying to prove you wrong. Like, we'll see. But like, you know, especially if you're in your thing that you do really well and you genuinely care about them, which you should. It's funny, by the end of 30 days, you're like, damn, like I hadn't thought about this. I started eating this way. I noticed I like lost 2 inches in my waist. And now like my body's redoing this. Like I was looking at myself in the mirror. They can see it. Like they can feel it. They can think it. They can see it in their business. It's interesting. It's just because you're just moving out the noise and reining them in on a very specific thing so that they can just stay in that for a little bit of time. And honestly, you remove the overwhelm because you're just kind of like, oh, I'm just part of this thing and it's a community and I'm just doing this for a month. We'll see where it goes. So you're actually kind of removing the noise. What did we talk about back in the beginning? If you just sit on stuff, you'll just sit and think. But if you're actually kind of taking part in something and putting your mind towards it and it's resonating with you, you wake up very differently like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now. You're like, oh my, like, you know. And I've done that. I've also done it with like the body. I mean, it's crazy. Like I went from, you know, this year from a 36 waist to a 32. Like I don't remember I don't think I was like 20 the last time I wore a 32 waist. It's like the craziest thing. Now, I didn't, so one of my buddies is a big, you know, online fitness coach and stuff like that. I did his programs and stuff like that. I also helped him with some stuff, you know, from business. But like, from doing the challenges, it was crazy because he was just like, it's not always about just losing the weight. It's also about like what goes in your mouth and how you think about food and how you like, you know, just have a good relationship with it. Not like, you know, I'm not going to restrict you from a whole bunch of stuff. That's nonsense. He's like, it's just, how do you have a good relationship with it? And suddenly, like, my body started shifting. And, like, over time, I'm like, I lost 4 inches on my waist. And, like, my weight changed only maybe about, like, 10 total pounds or whatever over the course of the whole year. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't notice it, but boom, like, shift happens really quickly. And then you now have something to build on. Yes. Right? Yeah. That's key. Because now you're 30 days in and you're like, all right, welcome to here are the keys to the rest of your life.
Sure, yeah. So it's just setting up a great platform, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Cool. So guys, I am doing the 30-day challenge, so we're gonna stick that in the comments, or we'll pin the link or something like that to the. If you're interested in the 30-day challenge, you can stick that on there and get involved and find out a bit more about it. And by all means, message me as well if you want to find out a bit more about the kind of mindset challenge. If there's something that you want to focus on specifically and get a real change in it, and you're kind of tired of going, but yo-yoing back and forth and going back to the old ways, and you want to change that, then get hold of me and we can work on that as well. It'd be interesting. Yeah.
That's all. I mean, and it's awesome that you do this. It's especially this time of year, right? It's funny. I'm on social media. I'm seeing a lot of messages of people like, "Hey, look out for loved ones. Make sure to check in, see if anybody's depressed or all that stuff." And all you can think about is like, man, like a few tweaks. You know what I mean? Like just a few tweaks. I mean, you do the same thing for your car. It's funny how we're so quick to other people, but like you should probably be quick to help yourself.
Yeah, of
You know,
course.
and then that
Of
leads
course.
into a whole other thing. Like, oh, am I selfish? You should be for yourself. Like, good. You should be good to yourself. So
100%.
it's cool that you. I mean, you're tackling some of the hardest stuff for people, but you're making it very easy. That was, you know, I had to seek out a lot of information when I was like kind of first waking up and a lot of stuff and getting more accountable. So it's cool that you actually you have something that you offer. I did some serious seeking to find it. You know what I mean? I was like, all right, what about you? And they're like, oh, I don't really have time for this. I'm like, damn it. And that guy was like,
Yeah, same,
you know,
same. It's taken me years. It's a journey. It's been a journey. Yeah, yeah. And it's ongoing. There's always more to learn. There's always more to try. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like literally while we've been talking, I even got a message from one of my advisors who like, he's always on. He's like, did you do this? I'm like, I'll get to it in a minute. You always have good people always on your ass. That's such a blessing. And ego aside, I'm like, cool. What this person says, yep, thank you. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Same.
Yeah, so
yeah. That's true.
Excellent.
I think people need people. People need people at the end of the day. If you're serious about your results, then you need to seek people out, I think. And you know, even if you don't come on it, if you're serious about making change or whatever, seek people out that are doing things that resonate with you, and you think, oh, I kind of like what they're doing. Let me go and work with this guy for a minute, or ask him some questions or whatever, or get some mentorship, which is how we started our relationship. So yeah.
Well, it cuts down the learning curve, and quite frankly, like I wanted to stop thinking. Like I mean, I know how that sounds, but like I just wanted somebody who like I think it was like a quote or something out there about like well, one, it was like never take advice from somebody you want to trade places with. I just looked at people who like I really admired, and I just started asking questions or paying them as my coaches, or like I'm part of some of their communities, and they're teaching me on like trading, whatever it might be. Like I just like I wanted to stop thinking so much and start just learning, right?
Learning,
so it was like, why not just cut down the time it takes and the crap? That's like going on up here and be like, what do I do? Oh, cool. Push. What's next? Oh, got it. Next. And then before long, you hit a little bit of a stride and momentum. You're like, oh, okay. And you keep them around. Keep going. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
This was awesome, man. I really appreciate having me on.
Oh, no. Thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Yeah. And I thought it'd be obviously you've been a massive value to me, and I just thought you'd be a great value for the audience as well, to log in and see what we're talking about, etc. And then mixes it up as well, rather than just getting bored of my voice.
No, I get it. I get it. Believe me, I get it. I think I need to start doing this more in some of my communities. Trust me.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. Lovely. Okay.
Awesome.
Well, I'll let you go. Thanks a lot, Matt. And we'll speak. So we'll speak tomorrow. I've got some work to do, actually. Talk about being on my ass. Yeah. So
we'll speak tomorrow. So,
okay.
And we'll connect on that. And then also, thank you for being on this, and thank you also for doing what you're doing, man. Like it's a really serious deal what you're doing. It's and you're I know it's something that where you're at in your journey with it, but like it's kind of a big deal what you're doing and what you're helping people out on. So that's a journey, and it's only the compound effect, because like you're helping people shift an entire way of like thinking and being. Sure. That's a really important thing, because then everything else comes from that. You can change people's like business, like, and I have. That was something that like I'd done at one point where I was growing their businesses, but it was like, if they're not right here and they're getting more money, what are they going to do with that money? You know what I mean? And so you start to wonder like about sustainability of people as a whole. And so you're actually working from like the top down.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's a major thing. So I just wanted to kind of commend you on that. It's actually a really big deal. So.
No, thank you, brother. Thank you, man. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Nice one. So well, like I said, we're gonna put the mindset challenge is gonna be in the link. This will be recorded as well, so you can, if you logged on late, you can watch it from the start. And thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.